Welcome back to the Tailosive EV podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We finally got rid of Randy.
Again.
We do read the comments. He's out of here.
He's been
He
canceled.
got canceled.
Right.
Way too many comments that we had to cut out of
He
last
couldn't
week's
stop
podcast.
talking about concrete. It was really annoying.
It was just too hard of a subject for us to dive into. But Tesla has been calling all of us to talk about our vehicle's extended warranty.
Right.
That's what all these calls were.
I thought it was just because they wanted to install solar on my house every single week.
Oh, that too. That too. They will continue calling for that. But I was most curious because Tesla, like, it's in the upgrades tab now. I don't know if you saw it on your app, but for the Model 3, it's $1,800. I think for the Y, it's $2,000. But they just started launching extended warranty programs, and it got me thinking it's an extension of either 2 years or 25,000 miles, whatever comes first. Mike, are you coming up on your limited warranty, or are you still on your original warranty you got with your car?
I'm quickly looking at it right now. Oh no. Yeah. It's very interesting actually because my basic vehicle, I got my vehicle in April
Almost 3 years ago?
April of 2020.
Wow.
And my
420. That's
Yeah.
easy to remember.
Right. My basic vehicle limited warranty expires on April 9th of 2024. Or 50,000 total miles. Now,
Whichever comes first.
Looking at, I've been looking at this throughout the week. It's kind of just boggled my mind how much I've driven it. Right now, my car is at 49,116 miles.
Oh my God. Wow, you're less than 1,000 miles away from hitting out of warranty officially.
It's insane. So this extended warranty is not a bad idea, especially at this point. How did you get there again?
It's in the upgrades tab, like where you would pay for full self-driving if you didn't have that.
I don't. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Underneath charge stats, you got an extended service agreement. I was looking over this. Covers 2 years or 25,000 additional miles.
I don't have
after your basic vehicle limited warranty. Maybe you need an update. I don't know.
Maybe because I'm not on the most recent update.
Okay.
Because
That
I'm
could
on the
be why.
FSD beta, which actually is a little bit more worrisome because it's been forever since I've gotten an update. And
you're still not on V11, are you?
I haven't been able to check out V11 because
Well, I mean, like, they didn't even offer it to you, did they?
No, because I'm on the beta. I think I'm perpetually always on the previous build. So
I hate how many, like, layers upon layers of beta program there is. It's like,
right.
you have to pay for full self-driving to get on the beta, but also V11 is only available to a select few who have been chosen by their Tesla overlords to qualify for the beta.
Blessed by the Tesla
I paid
gods.
for it. Right. And from what I can tell of the videos, version 11 appears to be safer/better. So they're like, only a limited number of people can have the safe version.
All I have is the acceleration boost, which
it's not there.
is still very tempting, but not today.
I do not get the acceleration boost. There's none for me. Maybe one day. I'm pretty sure they're limiting the max performance of the rear-wheel drive, and if there was a little line of code to update it, it'd probably go faster. They'll just wait when they're more.
Would be interesting. I do want to pick your brain on that in reference to your most recent video on a Model 3 refresh. But going back to the whole warranty thing, I think it's a very interesting idea offering this now, especially with many people like myself with Model Ys who are thinking about extended warranties, or at least like loving their cars, have been driving them for a while. And many people like me probably have driven less and are maybe coming up to this milestone of 50,000 miles. They're probably thinking, what happens if some bozo crashes into me, right? Am I going to, or like what happens if, I don't know, God forbid something happens with the battery or something else. what's going to happen? What am I going to do? And extending this warranty is a nice idea. I just wonder why now?
Yeah, it is kind of weird timing because it's not like there's been Model 3s out of warranty for a while because they started deliveries back in 2018. So it is a bit bizarre timing. I saw some people saying it was a great deal. I was confused because on the app, it basically says that it does not include the high voltage battery pack or drive unit. It's just everything else. So that's a separate warranty, which lasts longer.
But probably costs more.
You can't extend that.
Yeah.
Right. If they offered it, it would cost more. But that's probably the thing I'd be most worried about. The regular limited warranty is just covering like the interior, the display, headlights, and that kind of thing, I think. But or let me see. Let me actually read it. What's covered? It says repair or replacement necessary to correct defects in the materials or workmanship of most parts manufactured or supplied by Tesla, during the coverage period. So the battery pack would be my biggest concern, but I guess the question is, do you think over the course of 2 years or 25,000 additional miles, would you compile $1,800 worth of repairs?
Probably not. So it's likely not worth it, but interesting that you say 25.
Maybe it depends on how you use it. Maybe if you're using the car more rigorously.
My battery limited warranty goes for until 120,000 miles. So
yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. So I think I'll be fine probably or until 2028. The Y's been perfectly fine. There's been no issue. Well, okay, there's been some minor issues, but none of them are crazy. Like was it the cigarette plug in the back? Because I don't know if you have one of those, but I do. It's kind of where I call them.
I don't even know.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, there's at least in the Y, there's the milk jug holders is what I call them, which is basically the two little cubbies on either side of the hidden subtrunk.
I do have those.
Yeah, on the left side, right. On the left side, there's the cigarette lighter. I totally forget what it's called. Is it a
12 volt?
I guess it's the 12 volt outlet plug, but it's not even like a regular 3-prong.
Yeah, it's not a 110, but yeah, it's a little.
Anyways, I burnt that out a while back with a was it a tire pressure pump, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, really?
I somehow destroyed it.
It just died?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it doesn't even draw that much power. And I've been using it on the front cigarette lighter underneath, I guess, in the center console area. And it hasn't burnt that one out, but it burnt out the back one. So I don't know what happened there, whether the wiring was bad or just something else happened. But it's not even like a high-powered pump either, so who knows. But stuff like that.
That is weird.
What was the other thing? There's one other... the windows were acting funky recently, where it's like raining outside. We're going to a Sharks game, and we have to roll down the window to pay for a ticket for parking or whatever. And I go to... roll the window back up, and it goes up like maybe less than an inch and then quickly goes back down. I'm like, that's weird. And I trigger it to go back up again. It goes up about an inch and then goes back down. I'm like, try it again. Does the same thing 5 more times. I'm like, the window's not going up, and we're not like jostling around much. We're not even turning. We're going in a straight line, or we're stopped, and it's having a tough time going up. So that's where things like this warranty, this extended warranty is something I'm like, this would be nice to have because I didn't do this. I think the window's probably covered under that basic warranty.
I would think so.
Or maybe I just run to the Tesla service center now and try to get it done. But I'm a little bit strapped for time these days. So
yeah, I was gonna say
it's more of,
you guys are busy, but
is it worth the $2,000 to extend that time for when I'm not busy to actually bring it in for the window issue? But it could be nothing. It could be a nothing burger. It could have just been having an off day that day. Who knows? But it does intrigue me, this extended warranty, of the timing of it, especially with Model Ys coming out 3 years ago almost now. Wow, it's been 3 years of Model Y at this point, which is crazy. Time flies.
Considering how common they are too. Right, they're all over the place, and
They're the Toyota Prius of the Bay Area right now. They're everywhere. No matter where you look, there's a Tesla, whether it's a Model 3, Model Y, S, or X, or ever. It's everywhere. It's insane.
They all copied you. You were the OG.
I am the OG.
You inspired them.
No one else can be as original as me. But yeah, so the extended warranty is interesting, but I don't.
I saw some people suggesting that they might buy it if they're trying to sell the car to increase the resale value. Say it's still under warranty completely. Mm-hmm. Maybe that would make a potential used car buyer more comfortable buying it if they know that if there's any little issues with the interior that they'll be covered under warranty. Maybe that's the logic.
Could be. That is a neat idea. I would never do it just because we have no intentions on selling the Y. We had inklings when the Rivian R1S was beginning production. We're like, ooh, it'd be interesting to get that. And maybe we'd have to sell the Y. I think we had that in a conversation on this podcast a while back. But
maybe
we've quickly dashed those ideas away. And me and my wife's mind were like, nah, the Y is all that we need. We don't need to go through the struggles of trying to sell the Y and exchange it for an R1S and all that. Like, now. The Y is perfect enough.
R1Ss are kind of hard to get a hold of right now anyway.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be a wait.
It would be a very long wait, and I would really want it now, so it'd probably like opt for a launch edition one, which even so, like, nah. I'd rather the launch edition Rivians, I'm a little bit meh on. Like, they're cool because they're the launch edition, but I'd rather just get the more improved ones that have the dual motor and the max pack and all that. Those are a little bit more alluring to me. But
true.
No. Model Y is perfect enough for me right now. I don't need anything larger or more capable than what the Y is today.
That's good. No, I wasn't suggesting it either. I was just trying to visualize who would consider buying it. But
sure.
Even though Randy's no longer with us, rest his soul. He texted me from beyond the grave yesterday that he saw his first Rivian.
Yeah.
So he got his first impression. It took him long enough. It's surprising that out where he is, he saw Lucids, but not Rivians. He never got to see one. He had to go more towards the central U.S. to finally catch one. But he didn't tell me much else about it other than he saw one. But I would say over time, the Rivians will become more desirable. Like right now, they're already got a long wait, and everybody's trying to get a hold of their car. But once the Tesla supercharger network is a lot more open, whether that's Magic Docks or V4, I think I'll feel a lot more comfortable not getting a max pack Rivian or not having a high range model because you'll have a huge charging network to pull from. And over time, they want to introduce cheaper tiers like the dual motor with their custom powertrain that's supposed to be more efficient and stuff. So I'm the big LFP guy, so I'm not in the market for one. But if I was, I would be tempted to go LFP because charge it to full, higher cycle life, and all that jazz. So I'm all about the low range, good charging network over the high range because I don't tow. If I towed, that would be a very different story.
Yeah, that's something that we also consider.
It would be interesting. Yeah, it would be interesting to see what the resale value of your Model Y is like because you bought full self-driving. Like over time, if Tesla keeps raising their price on that, or maybe someday they get hardware 3 vehicles to at least support level 3 autonomous driving, would that like increase the resale value of your Model Y? Because it's like, oh, now he has like a $20,000 add-on with this car, and if you could sell it to cover what an R1S would cost, or at least a decent chunk of it, that'd be kind of interesting to see the comparison.
Yeah, I guess maybe a little update on my thoughts of the future of the lineup for me and my wife. We've thought about future vehicles and all that, like the Rivians and all that. We fell in love with the R1T and R1S at the First Mile event when we went, and loved them. They were really cool, and
that was fun.
Yeah, for many months, it's like it'd be really cool to drive one of those like every day. But thinking about it, especially with having The same year that we put a reservation or pre-order in for a Model Y is the same year we put a reservation / pre-order for a Cybertruck. And it's
true.
Pretty funny that we've been waiting this long for the Cybertruck. And thinking about it now, with our lineup of vehicles being a 2020 Tesla Model Y, a 2019 Ram 1500 Classic, and then we were thinking of like adding like a third car as a fun car or whatever, or at least like we want it to be electric or fun. I will not mention any non-electric things on this podcast. That would That would be very sacrilegious of me. A very Nick. What's it called? Moment. A Nick moment.
We know what happens when people suggest buying gas. They get banned. They're not welcome.
We joke. But thinking about it, we're like, would it make sense as the Cybertruck being the fun third car? Because we always thought if we're going to get another truck, it has to replace the Ram. But who said it has to?
Who's to say?
Who's to say? Right. So we discussed it a lot, and a bunch of other stuff, bouncing off ideas of waiting for a Mustang sedan that's an EV. Or I don't know, the Ioniq. We don't really need an Ioniq 6 or anything like that, but something that's fun or interesting, like a Mustang. But then we think, if Tesla's anywhere close to the performance figures for the Cybertruck, it's going to be a very fun vehicle. It's going to be able to do a lot of things. And you're going to get the costs of like having to fill up a EV truck with the battery pack it's going to have. But it's still going to give you the performance that you want and the utility that you want, and you don't have to worry about paint.
I like that.
Yes.
I really do like that.
So thinking about that, we're like, maybe it does make sense to have two trucks in a Model Y. And then that's kind of just it, because even if the Cybertruck doesn't have 6 seats, kind of like what our Ram has, it still accomplishes probably most things that we want to do in town, because we don't tow everything in town all the time. But it's not like we're going to be towing a lot outside of town either. So that's why it makes sense. Keep the Ram for like towing.
The Ram is like your official towing vehicle, and then everything else is done with the Cybertruck?
Yeah, for like in-town things like hauling furniture or yard materials or anything like that, or getting other items that are larger than what the Y can handle. Or we just get...
I'm sure it could tow short distances fine too, so...
Oh, yeah.
Kind of covers
so that's
the basics.
kind of what we thought about. Is like, this would be a nice in-town truck. It'd be fun with all the acceleration and all that. And we don't have to worry about scratching the side of it with a garbage can like I've accidentally done with the Ram. So the Cybertruck can just buff it out. So that's kind of convinced
I'm happy to see you come back around on it.
It's very weird.
Feels like a couple episodes ago you were like, this isn't a truck. This is a Tesla's Hummer. This is a toy.
It's very much...
And now you're like, I like this toy.
It's very much a roller coaster at this point, because originally when we saw it, when we all saw it back in 2019?
19?
Yeah, it was 2019. Why am I thinking about 2017? Oh, Roadster. In 2019, we saw this thing. Everyone, or I would say a majority of the people initially looked at it and were like, the heck is he thinking with this thing? And then a couple days later, or a couple hours later for some people, for me it was a couple hours. I'm like, maybe it does make sense. Reserve. But what was I getting at? Oh, it's been very much a roller coaster of just, I love it. This thing is stupid. I love it. Why would anyone buy this thing? This thing is cool. Oh dear Lord, what the heck? I'm now kind of on the upswing again of like...
I think it's all the woke. The woke changed.
I refuse to call it woke at this point.
I know, and that's why I insist on calling it. It's because I know no one wants to call it that.
I'll call it the cyber yoke. But
the cyber yoke, because what's funny is I was in love with the yoke all these years, and I saw that, and I was like, no, that's... like defeats the purpose of having a yoke. And the entire community, including you, were like, no, I like that. That's actually a good compromise. And I was like, Just like pick a wheel or a yoke. This is some weird in between thing.
Why not both?
I don't get it. And you're like, no, I like it. I like that look. And I'm like, oh boy. Well, I'm not the target demographic, so if you like it, that's the point. It serves its purpose.
Yeah. Well, at least for us, like, we will do like in-town towing for like the horses and all that, or just materials or other things, because we are very much like, we live on a little bit of acreage, nothing like 10 acres or anything like that, but we definitely like trying to be outdoors without leaving the town. So having a truck makes sense for us. But with gas prices the way they are, kind of going up and down, mainly trending upward and all that, again, the spikes sometimes that we have, it makes sense to go electric. And even if the Cybertruck doesn't do 500 miles like we want, if they start out with a tri-motor or even, I guess, a dual motor, but still attains like 350 miles or more, I think it makes sense for like in-town stuff. It's when it's later down the line when we want to convert everything to EV just because of simplicity of maintenance and taking care of it and cost of just running it. That's when we'll start thinking, okay, or being a little bit more picky of like, all right, the next truck we're going to get that's going to replace the Ram in the future, because Cybertruck is probably not going to replace our Ram. That next vehicle, whether it's a Cybertruck with longer range or a Rivian with longer range, or I guess GMC, I guess any of the Legacy Auto makes a longer range truck, that's what we will look at and nitpick and be like, does this satisfy everything that we have, or that we are looking for in a truck, but also does everything that our Ram does and better. So that's where we'll start being a little bit more picky, and which is, I guess, maybe something that you guys as listeners have been hearing from my perspective for, I guess, the last 6 months or more, in regards to like, I want an EV truck that can go 500 miles of range. That doesn't mean I have to have it now. It just means that's the end goal. So
that's the end goal, and no one seems to be prioritizing it right now.
Right.
Because it's too tricky to get all those batteries together. And I also think that's just half the equation. Okay, even if you had the range, the next thing you're going to be waiting for is the charging network. That's going to take some time to build out, because even if it is 500 and when towing it becomes 250, when you do stop, a lot of these chargers are not well laid out for trucks with trailers, and you're going to have to unhook the trailer every time and plug in, and it's going to take a long time to charge because it's a big battery pack. So I think it's a wise decision to just acknowledge that it's going to be a while before that experience is ironed out. I think that's going to be the last vehicles to switch to electric, is the long distance towing market. And honestly, I would question, depending on how efficient the Cybertruck is, I would debate if you need a Model Y and a Cybertruck. I could theorize the Cybertruck kind of filling the need of the Y.
Yes, that's what I was thinking about as well. Is like, if I want like a in-town like trucker or something that can haul material, why not just put a trailer on the Model Y and call it a day? Because the Model Y can already go almost 300 miles, at least for mine. And if you add on a trailer and then put on, I don't know, a quad or a bunch of yard equipment or a bunch of bark or whatever, like, it can still do it. And it has. It's hauled a trailer before, or many trailers before, and it does perfectly fine. It's just, I don't know. The allure of not having to worry about the vehicle is nice. The Y is definitely kind of like how Randy has put it with Phoenix, is that Jarvis is my baby. It was the first EV that we got. It's something that we got in a very crazy time. It's the car that my grandma got to see before she passed. And she got to see a lineage of cars, all the cars basically, from the beginning until now. And so it's got a special place in my heart. And if it ever gets damaged or anything like that, I'm going to feel terrible. Or if I sell it, I'm going to feel terrible. So it's like, it doesn't make sense to get rid of it while it still has sentimental value to me, even if it's at the height of its value for selling. I still value that more. And so it makes sense to keep it as kind of just the commuter.
It will be more efficient than the Cybertruck, that's
Exactly.
for sure. It'll use less energy. I think maybe maybe if there's an Aptera in the future that can kind of offset the just driving without hauling too much stuff or too many people. Powering itself, I could see Aptera plus Cybertruck being a really cool combo for a lot of people out there. Of like, this is the utility vehicle and this is the commuter vehicle that charges itself and all that. But yeah, I like that plan just because it involves you getting a Cybertruck and me being able to look at it or see it.
You can ride in it anytime you want.
That would be awesome. Yeah, if you ever need to move all 3 vehicles, I can be a designated driver for you and move the
Okay, I guess I'll drive the Cybertruck.
You drive the Y because it's sentimental. Your wife can drive the Dodge, and I'll drive the Cybertruck.
What Dodge? There's no Dodge. There's only a Ram.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the Ram. I keep getting those two.
It's okay. I caught myself the other day calling a Dodge Ram. Like, that doesn't make sense. They're not the same company anymore. They're under the same company, but they've been split apart. So
I know
it's kind of old habits die hard.
A long time ago. It's my subconscious way of telling everyone I don't care about it. I guess that's how I let you all know it's not important to me. But yeah, it's so. Does this indicate? I don't know how concrete this plan is, but did this indicate that you would go through with your Cybertruck reservation?
It depends on what Tesla offers, but yeah, it also kind of it depends what their approach is, right? Because if they follow through with like carrying your reservation over to an order or pre-order, then you get to keep all the very wonderful things like not supercharging, full self-driving at the cost that it did, which I don't think they're going to do. I think what they're probably going to do is configure in a sort of way to where you have to reconfigure. You can't do, well, they'll basically take it in the same way that they took the Y, where you put in all of like this stuff of like, oh yeah, I want the Model 3 aero rims with it.
Yeah,
but the long range
they changed it a lot, didn't they?
They killed my order, and I think they killed your order too as well.
Mine too. I ordered that same one, and they never made it.
Yeah, it's gone. So I think they'll probably just do that on a technicality where it's like, well, actually, the rims that you technically ordered with your reservation, we're not making, but we're making these ones that are slightly close to those, but they're not, something like that, and then they'll force you to reconfigure, and then there goes your full self-driving lock-in price. Yeah. So I think it's going to definitely be something like that, and then whether it's a dual motor or tri-motor, who knows? But we don't have the single motor reserved because we never saw ourselves getting the single motor. But if it's a dual or
I don't
tri,
think Tesla will ever make that.
Right. If it's a dual or tri, we've got those. I think she's got a tri without full self-driving, and then I've got a tri with full self-driving and a dual with full self-driving.
Oh, I forgot this. So between the two of you, you have 3 Cybertruck reservations?
Yes. Only because...
Okay.
I don't know. Again, what were people thinking?
Awesome.
What was I thinking? What was everyone thinking when pre-order, or I guess not pre-ordering, but reserving a Cybertruck back in 2019, or I guess it could have been 2020 as well for many people. But
yeah,
who knows? But yeah, so that's kind of our plan. I know that having an Aptera would be nice, but it's something that my wife isn't really on board with, which makes sense.
Sure,
because she thinks it's a little bit weird. But if I can make a case,
I understand.
The only issue is like that becomes 4 vehicles at that point. Yeah, it's years out, but also it becomes 4 vehicles at this point probably if we're going all in on the Cybertruck, and which then that's a whole nother. Well, I guess the Aptera is a lot less costlier than the Cybertruck, but
I'm anti 4 vehicle. I don't think you guys should have 4. I would just.
Either. I think 2 is necessary because I need to drive and she needs to drive. Or maybe she doesn't need to drive in the future, but she does want her own car.
Yeah.
And we need something to
You need a vehicle that's really efficient for just getting to work and back or just running light errands and groceries and stuff. And then you need another vehicle that can do towing and move larger quantities. And just inherently that more utility focused is probably going to be less efficient. So... My dream case scenario is you have Model Y and a high-range Cybertruck, but high-range Cybertruck I don't think will come for a long time. Yeah. So I think a good compromise would be what you pitched, which was, close to launch edition Cybertruck plus Model Y, and maybe depending on how efficient the Cybertruck is, you could even get by with just the Cybertruck and your Ram. But I know there's sentimental value to the Y.
I guess what I'm getting is buying the Y was maybe a mistake in the end, because it's just that good of a car and like doing a lot of things. It carries a lot of stuff that we need it to carry. It can tow. It's got decent range and all that. It's a good commuter. It's very efficient. Yeah. So it's the nice Swiss Army knife of EVs for us, which is great, but also not great because we want something that maybe is a little bit more exciting or fun, or maybe a little bit more utility focused. And it's that weird middle ground that it satisfies, which is great. But at the same time, it's like we don't really need the other ones then. So it's it's good for, I don't know. It's good for everything, but not good for everything at the same time. It's a nice...
And that's why it'll probably be the best-selling car this year.
Probably.
It's the Swiss Army knife. It does everything just right. It's the people mover. It's pretty efficient, but it's also pretty utility-focused, and it's not a Model X.
Right.
Check. That solves a lot of problems. You can have a roof rack. It's not $100,000. It's not stupid expensive.
Yeah.
So... it's just the right amount, and that's why it's in the last 3 years become like so incredibly popular.
Sure. I do want to recognize though that companies like Rivian at least are making strides towards a better experience with their EV, such as their most they've been having issues with their 12-volt batteries, but being able to software fix that, and then also in the same, I think, update, put on the Tesla Magic Dock locations, I think is a great move.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was a good move. That should be recognized and definitely applied for, because it seems like Legacy Auto is still taking their sweet time with everything, and it doesn't seem like anyone wants to adopt NACS, in which Rivian could, but maybe they're just too bottlenecked with everything else that they're like, we'll worry about that. They
probably got too much going on, but yeah. I feel like, just like how there's that little charge port door on the left side, you could put a NACS connector on the right, and I feel like that would be this perfect middle ground, because that's actually, if you pulled in straight to a supercharger, it would reach the V2 and V3 cables.
Sits in the right
even
location.
Without a Magic Dock. So that would immediately unlock so much utility. Plus, it's on the lower voltage architecture, so it can actually take meaningful speeds from a supercharger, unlike the Lucid, which is like, woohoo, 45 kilowatts, yay, because we chose 900 plus volts or whatever. It's kind of a nightmare for Lucid right now. But Rivian can take at least 150 kilowatts, which is probably better than what they get at EA half the time, because the stalls are down.
I didn't really consider that until now. I mean, I considered it with the Cybertruck when we had discussions in the past about what if the Cybertruck could plug in at mega chargers and all that. That'd be neat. But bringing that idea to either Legacy Auto, which would be a great idea, with kind of like what Porsche's done with the fast charger and slow charger on each side, that maybe Rivian adopts that same idea, but putting a NACS on the other side is it's a great way to adopt to that standard without having to fully commit. And also still...
They would get so much street cred, I think, for that. So many people would love it. They'd be like, oh, you can use either. Who cares? Like CCS or
I think the issue
NACS.
where it comes into is supply, right? And also manufacturing costs. Because now you're having to add another charge port door, and you're having to add another plug with more wiring. You probably just have to connect that wiring to the other plug and call it a day. But
it would be complicated, but I feel like their vehicles are so expensive now anyway that it's relatively not a huge chunk. It would be one thing if it was like a Ioniq 6 or a Mach-E, something on the lower end, but most of these Rivians they're selling now are in the $80,000 to $90,000 price range. So to me, just one extra DC connector is not that percentage-wise a huge chunk of the price, but they're burning a lot of cash already, so they're probably extra careful on everything.
From an outsider's perspective, not really thinking on the engineering details of it, because I'm an engineer, by the way. I don't know how many times I have to flout that. I am.
Half of the people speaking on this show are engineers.
Wow. Wow. We were talking about Owen Wilson before this podcast. But the paths I can see of them adopting NACS, if they were wanting to adopt NACS, just completely like, let's just add this plug to our lineup at any point. They could either do that with like their high expensive cars, the R1T and R1S, and just add that second dock on the other side, add a charge port door and call it a day, and then all the wiring. Or the smarter approach, I would say, is get rid of the CCS port on the R2 platform and just use the NACS.
Oh.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
So then that way they are adopting to the new standard. It's just not with their older cars, in which that gives them the excuse to still use the supply and the orders that they already have to get those plugs, whether they're manufacturing or buying it from someone else. That's something I'd have to look into. But being able to get away with still using CCS, but then adopting NACS for their smaller platform that's supposed to be more affordable, and then being able to charge wherever you want, while also maybe offering that plug to charge at CCS stations because that plug exists. And you can still use the Rivian network if they commit with just CCS on that. It might seem like a very great approach either way.
I'm all in favor. I still think we're relatively very early in the EV transition. There's so much time before all vehicles are electric. You know, we've got decades to go before that is just the norm. So I'm like, relatively speaking, we're very early. I don't think it's too late to switch to NACS. I think the biggest problem with supporting just NACS on R2 is going to be that adventure network, which is still being built out with CCS connectors. It's like, I get more worried about that, like the mass rollout of the CCS cables, and that's it. And it's like, come on.
There's only more and more coming, Drew. If you look at all of the EV trucks that are coming out, besides, I guess, the Cybertruck, they're all going to have CCS. And then all the other cars that have yet to come out from GM are going to have CCS. All the Ford ones, I guess the new Explorer has their European CCS, but still has CCS, doesn't come with NACS. And the only one who has
me so much
is Aptera, and that's it. And they're not going to be at least as prevalent on the road until 2024, 2025. Probably 2025 is when we're actually going to start seeing a bunch of them on the road. So we're not going to see another NACS vehicle besides a Tesla on the road for a long time, which is...
That makes me sad.
It's a bummer, but that just shows the stubbornness and choices that automotive companies make. And there's reasons behind it, both cost-wise, engineering-wise, and a bunch of other stuff. But it takes a lot of time and effort and initiative to do the right thing and go the most efficient route. And that's what we see from Aptera taking a long time to come to market with a very efficient vehicle, or Tesla taking a while to become profitable. And now they can have $10,000 in excess for each car that they make or whatever. Maybe not that much, but at least every single car that they make is going to be a net gain for them instead of a net loss like Ford has had with their recent earnings on all their EVs.
Yeah, did you catch that?
Not as much.
That was
but I saw a blurb basically saying that it's not looking good for Ford Electric.
Yeah, I think this was part of their plan from the beginning, and they have this long-term plan to start turning profitable down the road. But yeah, it definitely explained a lot when I was like, how the heck, especially when the Lightning first got announced, it was like, this truck is going to start at $40,000. And I was like, it has a 110 or something kilowatt hour battery pack.
Yeah.
And you're selling it for $40,000. I was like, there's no way they're profitable on this. So this earnings report that they gave basically confirmed what a lot of us were already suspecting. But I guess it was a lot worse than I expected, because the average lost per vehicle delivered was $21,000, which was pretty
per EV delivery,
pretty brutal,
which is insane.
Yeah,
and if you think about
every Mach-E that took delivery, Ford lost on average between their Lightnings and Mach-E's over $20,000 per car, which is like, dang, They'd actually make more money if they just gave everyone $5,000.
I think what's most surprising to me is that it includes the Mach-E. And the Mach-E is already built in another country to try to decrease the cost, and it still
That's
cannot.
true.
So it shows
it's made in Mexico. Yeah,
it's a great demonstration that even if you try and match the specs of Tesla, or I guess any EV company that has nailed down vertical integration, you can't just supplement that by moving manufacturing to another country and then importing it back into the United States or anything like that. You have to innovate. You have to learn how to make things a little bit more efficient, not just manufacturing wise, but just how you approach the vehicle in general, so that way the financials follow through with being able to make a profit.
Right. Yeah. And I think that profitability in the car is really crucial. A lot of people are like, well, who cares? As long as I get a good product at a good price, that's all that matters. And I'm like, if the company is not incentivized to sell the vehicle, then they're not going to try very hard to build more of them or to make them more available or to scale up production, because like if this doesn't turn around, which I think they have plans, I think they've said they're going to switch to LFP and they're going to update manufacturing lines. They're already working on a new factory, I think, out in Kansas or something, that's just for electric Fords.
I think so, yeah.
But still, it's like you got to have a plan, otherwise there's no motivation to scale up production, because that'll just bankrupt the company. The automotive business already was not super profitable, so it's a little bit discouraging, but I will give Ford credit. At least they're being transparent about it. I think it's cool that they're willing to come forward and say, hey, this is not profitable right now. But I think in the report they said something like by 2026, they're expecting
that's only 3 years away
to be profitable.
And they've got...
I think it's probably a little ambitious. It probably will take longer than that. But
thinking about now, with what Jim Farley talked with, I think, Sandy Monroe and his team about, I think, a couple months ago, about being very choosy and selective with what cars they turn into an EV or they make an EV, either original or kind of carrying on through the namesake, is a good move, especially with this trend that they forecast being we're not going to be profitable until 2026. It's great that they're being very choosy, because that means they can still reap the benefits of selling gas cars and getting all of that that revenue, so that way they can invest that into their EVs. So that way by the time 2026 rolls around, they still have money to use. It's not like they went all in on EVs and now they're gushing money ridiculously and they're going to have to take out loans and all this other stuff just to stay afloat. Instead, they are playing it smart in the long game, which I applaud them over, because that means we still get to see that blue oval on the road. And I do appreciate their presence in the automotive industry, because I think they make some really neat products. Big fan of the Mustang and all that, whether the original Mustang, the Mach-E's meh, but stuff like the Mustang or the GT and all that are really cool.
Clearly, the F-150 being the best-selling vehicle for decades, they've struck a chord. They've found their demographic, and it's a big one. So it's the biggest one. So they've done something right, and I think personally Ford's one of those legacy automakers that will survive the transition. I think they're making the right moves, but yeah, it's not an easy one, to say the least. I don't know if I could suggest them do anything different other than, I guess, maybe focus more on cell manufacturing domestically, which I think they're getting into. It's just not as aggressively as Tesla is. But
I think they just opened one in Michigan, one or two. They keep on opening a whole bunch of factories. I've seen like a few unveilings of a new factory in Michigan with Ford, and the governor's there from Michigan. I'm like, didn't you guys just do this like 3 months ago? Yes, and we're doing it again. I'm like...
And now did you see the European crossover?
I haven't seen any of the specifics, but I don't know if they unveiled many specifics, but I did see some of the interior shots. I'm very lukewarm on the pivoting center screen.
Yeah. It's the most wet white rice SUV I've ever seen.
I don't recall if it has a dial on it like the Mach-E.
I didn't see one.
I don't see one either in the images that I've got.
I saw it move down a little bit, and I was like, Okay. And that was it.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. It definitely. It looks.
I don't love the look, to be honest.
Well, when they said it's the Explorer, the all-electric Explorer, I initially thought, Ford Explorer, big giant SUV.
Right.
And so when I saw this, I'm like, this is just a small R1S or a boxy Model Y, basically. If you're trying to like go for a certain size that you can think in your head, it's just a crossover again. It's just another crossover. It's just this one's a toaster, so it's basically the EV9. But
it's the Blazer effect in full force.
Exactly. It's another Chevy Blazer, and it's basic. It's pretty funny now that you mentioned that. It is just the new Chevy EV Blazer, but it's for Europe instead of America.
It's just now it's Ford instead of Chevy on the front.
Right.
It's always like fine specs for a lowish price, but nothing about it is like amazing. It's all just, we can do it too, and this one has our logo.
Yeah.
So
it's not the vehicle that I'm super excited about or interested in. I'm glad that Europe is getting a car that will probably fit their needs. This is probably the biggest you can likely go that's comfortable on European roads, and they're carrying over the Explorer name. And I think it's a good proving ground for maybe what they want to carry forward in the United States, or at least they can learn from the Explorer. I'm not too sure
because they're building it in Europe, right?
I believe so. They build Mustangs in Europe, so it only.
There was like a German plant that they were going to build this at, so I'm like, well, I guess it's not that important that it has amazing specs or a groundbreaking design or anything. I think all that matters is like, can you sell this profitably? If you can, okay, that's a good start. But I still think they're definitely pushed up against, in Europe in particular, really strong competition, not just from VW or from Porsche or whoever's out there, but also Tesla, because Giga Berlin's at full speed right now, cranking out Model Ys. But the good news is I think that the automotive market is so large and so diverse that lots of vehicles can coexist. I think there's too many Tesla bulls with the opinion that in order for Tesla to succeed, everyone else must fail, and everyone will choose the Model Y because it has the better specs. And I'm like, maybe it comes from me being in the iOS versus Android world, but I'm like, the specs aren't everything. You could have a worse product with worse charging speed, with worse range and worse performance that just wins because people like their buttons and dials.
There's no more buttons and dials in this. It's all touchscreen. Well, I guess there's like 50 buttons on the steering wheel for the new Ford Explorer in the Europe.
Yeah. Well, just personal preference. I would definitely take Model Y over the Ford Explorer, but it does have a speedometer behind the steering wheel. And to some people, that's important. And some people like buying from brands that they've used from before. And some people might like that big giant touchscreen going back and forth. I was seeing GIFs of it, and I was like, it just seems like none of the position. That seems like one of the things that people would set in a position and then leave there forever and never touch it again.
So I'm glad that you bring that up. I think it's great for if you've got a weird glare coming from the sun. Like, let's just say you're driving a certain direction on a road and you're not going to change direction for a while. This has happened to me with my car. I drive in a certain direction and the sun's just always reflecting off the screen into my eyes. And it can be solved with like a matte screen covering or whatever. I don't want to buy one of those. But to be able to adjust the angle is nice for those cases where you've got the sun hitting you and there's nothing that you can do on your drive besides like move your head, but then you don't want to do that. You want to be comfortable while you're driving. So that's the one use case that I could probably excuse and be like, yes, the pivoting screen makes sense. Otherwise, I'm just like, yeah, I agree. Like, it would be something where I'm like, it stays in the most inclined position possible, and that's it. That's how I'll leave it.
Right. So I would probably leave it that way too. But this is This Ford Explorer is kind of boring. What I'm surprised we haven't brought up yet is the fact that Ford's going to be fine. But Lucid, just before we started recording this,
of course,
finally introduced wireless CarPlay, which is, I think, the first EV startup to incorporate CarPlay. Because Tesla hasn't, Rivian hasn't, and I believe both Tesla and Rivian have been fairly outspoken that they won't. I've heard both companies say on the record that like they have no interest in adding it. It's not some aspirational thing. It's just like no, we're going to design the software from the ground up. It's going to be from us, by us. But Lucid is like, Apple, please buy us. So they put wireless CarPlay and they dropped this video for it. And they said that it's going to be a standard thing that everyone gets via over-the-air update. There's several people with Lucids that are still waiting for that update, so I haven't seen any IRL testing of it. But I think, honestly, as rough as Lucid has had it lately, this is a great idea that they should have had from day one, because
they kind of did, though, right? Because they already integrated Amazon and all that. Amazon Alexa, so they already had like a hand in the commercial tech business already. It's just instead of being like Rivian, where they're a little bit more hard-headed on, no, we're going to design our own software, like, get out of here. They decided to take the Polestar route and be like, oh yeah, CarPlay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a good solution if your in-car software kind of sucks.
It's interesting that they didn't adopt Android Auto, though. Right? You can't use Android Auto with your Lucid Air.
I think they know what they're doing.
Says the Apple sheep, of course. But think about people that don't use... Okay, no.
They probably have the data on what percentage of their customers are using iPhone versus Android, and I would be willing to bet it's like more than 80% iOS.
I know at least one that probably uses an iPhone in a Lucid, and his name is Steve Wozniak.
Yeah, the co-founder of Apple probably uses an Android, so...
Oh, really?
Maybe he wants Android on.
He's the one guy.
But no,
and Marquez.
Yeah.
Except Marquez doesn't own one, I guess, but still.
That's true.
That's maybe something that I'm a little bit annoyed at, though. It's, of course, Lucid's like, oh, yes, we have this plan laid out, and it'll make sense, I promise. And then they announce it, and you're like, this doesn't make sense. And this is just, for me, another step in the direction of, why no Android Auto? I mean, I get it. Like, if you want to optimize for one specific type of phone, okay, sure. Apple's probably the way to go because they have a big market share on the smartphone business. But
have you heard Peter Rawlinson speak?
Of course. And
does he seem like the kind of guy that would like Android Auto?
Oh, I've experienced both, and both are equivalent in my opinion. They're both decently fine, unless maybe this is something we could be. I mean, this is dabbling in more into tech, but. Maybe there's something that Lucid knows that the rest of, I guess, any startup company or any other company knows in regards to the revolution of what CarPlay 2.0 is going to look like. And maybe that's why they went all in on Apple CarPlay instead of also introducing Android or having Android Auto with it, because they see CarPlay providing that luxury experience for the Lucid Air, because that's all they're making right now. And doing very terribly at it, by the way. But please, Lucid, this is my last request. Do better. Offer the Air or the Air Pure, and then move on and decrease prices, or do something to decrease prices, because your luxury cars aren't going to cut it anymore.
Yeah, I think they've really boxed themselves into a corner. But because they've basically built out their whole factory for these high-range, high-price vehicles, right? I don't know if you caught this, but out of spec, Dave recently purchased a Lucid Air
Good for him.
Grand Touring, because he buys a new car every week just for fun, you know. So
I wish I could.
I thought what he got that car for was a great indication of the market and the demand they're struggling with, because he said that same vehicle new would have cost like 150 grand. And he bought it off a guy used with 800 miles on it. And it cost him 108 grand.
That depreciation, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like the depreciation. And I noticed this the other day when my wife and I were talking about Lucid. She was like, how's Lucid doing? And I was like, not great. And she looked them up on like eBay to see used models.
eBay? You can buy them on eBay?
The Dream Editions.
What?
Yeah, eBay's got the auto stuff, I guess. But like the Dream Editions have gone down a lot in resale value too. So this is the whole classic supply and demand thing. And you can tell by what people are buying them for secondhand that there's not much demand for them, which sucks for basically the most important buyer, the first one. Like, what do you see? Mike's shaking his head.
I could only imagine buying $150,000 to $180,000 sedan that's electric and then selling it on eBay.
They gotta get it in front of as many eyes as possible.
Not saying eBay is bad. I think eBay's great. I think they've got a really decent amount of offerings. But like, Cars and Bids exists. There's a bunch of other like auction houses that exist too. I guess this just shows how desperate people are.
Mike's feelings towards eBay is Peter Rawlinson's feelings towards Android Auto. He's like, why would I even mess around with that? But, okay, they've built out their factory line for all these high-range, high-price EVs. It's going to be really expensive and really complicated to try to restructure, not even mentioning marketing. They would have to restructure their whole business to do what I've been pitching from the beginning, which is don't focus on high-range EVs. Focus on efficient EVs that cost less because of how small the battery pack is. I think that would be far more interesting if Lucid was like, here's a 70 kilowatt hour battery pack, but because of our aerodynamics, our tiny motors, and our hyper efficiency, we can get that 70 kilowatt hour battery pack to go 320, 350 miles, sell it for like 80 or 70 grand, and it has a luxurious interior. That would be a really tricky marketing stunt to pitch that, you know? They would have to be like,
sure.
So we're changing everything. We're not doing what we were doing. I think it would be hard, but it's necessary. So if you don't want to restructure the whole factory line, you're looking for more ways to increase demand, CarPlay is a pretty good idea because a lot of people have been asking for CarPlay for years on Teslas, and they're like, why can't Tesla add CarPlay? I want CarPlay. And Lucid has tried with the range. They've tried with the luxury. They're like, please, Tesla people, come check out our car. Try us out. And none of it's working. Their supercharger access sucks. The Electrify America sucks. The Lucid in-house software sucks based on... That's why Out of Spec Dave was able to get his for such a low price. He said the last guy hated the software so much. Wow. He was like, I'll take a $50,000 loss on this thing simply because I hate the software. Jeez. Your software sucks. Demand is low. Adding CarPlay when people are all begging for it on Rivian and Tesla. Yeah, that's a fairly cheap, simple way to maybe get a little bit of a spike in interest. Will it single-handedly save them? Probably not, but
I think it's a decent slap in the face to the Model S, though. The fact that it does offer CarPlay. I think you're right, is that someone who has a bunch of money, who hasn't owned a Tesla or maybe has owned a Model 3 or whatever, is considering getting a Model S, but then comparing it to a Lucid Air or a Mercedes EQS and all that. If the fact that the Lucid, which touts great performance and focuses on the driver and its beautiful materials and all that, and says, hey, you could also use CarPlay like you use in your Chevy Bolt that you owned or whatever person you're talking to that it's, I don't know, some rich dude who apparently bought a Bolt. I don't know. I guess my point is that the fact that you can get CarPlay on the Lucid versus not getting CarPlay on the Tesla is definitely something that someone would logically weigh against the other and be like, yeah, it's probably worth getting the Lucid Air versus the Model S just because maybe better performance in a lot of regards, because many people have tested the Lucid Air versus the Model S and they say Lucid Air is more performance focused in regards to like handling and all that versus the Model S is just really good at acceleration and all that. So
straight line, it's faster, but Lucid's better at handling.
Yeah. So yeah, I could see that. Makes sense.
It's a good Band-Aid, I think, because another big criticism Lucid's customers have been giving for a long time is that the software is not that great. And I know a lot of people that were like, take the Tesla, it has better software. This is a quick way for them to leapfrog that, because everything software comparison wise is very subjective, right? Like you could say, well, Tesla settings are like this and they make you do everything on the display and I don't like that. And then people say Lucid, the software is buggy, but then some people say, they fixed it with Lucid 2.0, whatever. This one is more of like a definitive box to check. Everything else is very subjective of like, I prefer this, I prefer that. But this is just like, does it have CarPlay or not? Tesla, no. Lucid, yes. That's a really good side-by-side comparison that I think that will... Because I know a ton of people that are like diehard, I need CarPlay. No question. I will only take a car with CarPlay. Tesla doesn't have CarPlay. Like, it's a deal breaker for some people.
Sure.
So I have very little experience with it. I've used it once or twice, and I wasn't amazed by it. But it's... a lot of our livelihoods are all powered by our phones, you know? Like... These phones are very, very crucial parts of our day-to-day lives, and having all of those settings and apps and stuff that just kind of syncs with the big screen wirelessly like that.
Right.
I understand the appeal. I don't put that same priority in it, but I understand why people care about it so much. And if possible, I don't know if it is, but you're right about if Lucid could incorporate the next generation CarPlay that Apple's been talking about, where the CarPlay takes over the whole screen and it's the speedometer and everything. Even if it's not ready yet, I think it would be a great idea for Lucid to show that off, or at least show concept art of what that will look like, because that's how you get basically Apple Car territory, is like Lucid with Apple software powering the whole thing.
Wait a second. Is this the Apple Car? It was always.
Now all you need is a little lightning connector on the back to charge it.
Oh, dear Lord, no.
It'll charge about as fast as it does now with the
That'd be interesting.
supercharger.
Maybe this just leads Lucid into being bought out by Apple in the end, just because, well, maybe. That's taking this...
They would so want that,
That's
I'm
taking
sure,
this
right now.
report of just Lucid incorporates CarPlay to, like, dialing that to 11 of, this just means Apple's going to buy Lucid in the end. It's like, maybe, but...
I have no doubt in my mind Lucid wants to be bought by Apple. That's like 100% clear in my head. After watching that Lucid event, and I've heard Peter Rawlinson talk very highly of Apple on earnings calls, and clearly they're going for that Johnny Ive type voiceover that, like, they totally want it. The limiting factor preventing that acquisition will be Apple. Is Apple willing to pay whatever their market cap is right now? My guess is they aren't, but $15 billion. Apple would probably offer more than that to make the shareholders be comfortable with the acquisition. So Apple would have to offer like $20 billion or something for it, which is not impossible. They have that much cash, but it would be a very large purchase for them, and that would probably...
Look out, Activision. There's another acquisition on the way that's going into the courts next week. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Apple's also in the process of trying to cut costs and reduce layoffs and all that stuff. They're in like recession mode right now. So it's up to them. I think it would be the best case scenario for Lucid. I don't know about if it would be the best case scenario for Apple, but yeah, it's
a great way into the EV market.
Yeah.
Without having to put in that much money. Though I guess they would be putting in a lot of money. If they put in, let's just say they bought Lucid for like 30 billion. Let's just say double of what they're worth right now.
Wow.
If they put in $30 billion to buying Lucid, do you think they've already put in $30 billion already for their self-driving stuff that they're doing under wraps? Or
probably, knowing how long it's gone on. Like they've been working on Project Titan for like basically a decade now. So all of the testing, all of the, maybe not 30 billion.
I think it's maybe in the millions, but like, maybe. at least hundred thousands.
Yeah. No, I'd be shocked if it was not in the billions, but I don't know if Lucid's your best bet because they're not doing so hot. So Apple would be buying a company that's struggling with profitability, struggling with demand, struggling with software, but I guess that's where Apple would come in and
would it just
clean
be
it
a
up and
Twitter
make it.
situation then? Basically, Apple comes in and just rewrites everything that Lucid's ever done. So instead of being like luxury,
A lot of it.
it'd still be luxury focused, but it won't be as luxury focused as they've been. And it would just turn into, okay, we're going to sacrifice on these materials and those materials, but this is how we do the cost cutting measures so that we can gain a profit on this car while also selling it for a decent price. So that way we're not seeing a $50,000 depreciation in our asset on the market.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's scaring Apple away is seeing how poorly they're doing. Is like, do you want to clean up this mess? Because that's what it is. You'd be buying a giant mess that you have to clean up, and Elon was willing to try to clean up the Twitter mess, and it's up for debate how well a job he's doing. But, could Apple clean up that mess? Maybe. Is it worth it to them for that amount of money? Probably not. I hope I would be so happy if they did announce it, for the record. I want them to, but I can understand the hesitation when they're in such a cut costs, like be careful with how much we're spending stage, and they're being very cautious with hiring and expansion and all that. So It probably won't happen, but for Lucid's sake, I will say after many, many months of them making missteps, in my opinion, of just being like, don't do that. Oh, no, that's a bad idea. Oh, no, don't do that. This is the first thing they've done in the past few months that I've been like, that's a great idea. Thank you.
I think the last thing that I said was a good idea was when I first moved into this home, was when they announced that they're going to go into energy storage systems, kind of like with what Tesla does with the Powerwall. They were going to make their own Lucid Powerwall. I'm like, that's a good idea. Capitalize on the fact that people know what Tesla Powerwalls are, but it's a Lucid one. And then whether it's
now
the same
black.
now it's black or whatever. Whatever. It doesn't. If you're going into that business, sure, do it. But like, I haven't seen any waves there, and so
I liked the gravity reveal.
Did you?
I mean, they brought back those what are they called? Captain seats that I liked.
Yeah. After they promised it,
they were like, look, it reclines, and I think the frunk opens like the lightning on the front. I was like, hey, that's a good frunk.
Yeah,
good job.
I don't know, this how I could see it happening is it just goes the path of like, oh yeah, here's the captain seats, and then when it actually comes to production, it's like, yeah, we opted for the bench seat again. So that way we can compete with the EV9 and the Rivian R1S.
They need to pivot like the EV9.
Oh, I was talking.
I can't believe we didn't even bring up the gravity when we were talking about EV9.
Why would we? Why?
We didn't even mention it.
Is it in the same price bracket at all? Like, think about the Lucid Air and how much it costs. Like, basically for one that has decent specs and all that, or at least is one that they're selling at a decent production rate, like the Touring and all that. Those come in at six figures. Trying to compare what's now an SUV, so it's going to cost a bit more. It's going to have a little bit less range. Those captain seats are definitely going to bring it up a ridiculous amount. And comparing it to the EV9 made by Kia, who is known for making consumer-friendly, or I guess price-friendly products for people, like actually attainable.
But it's not a luxury. But luxury.
He's saying that pivoting seat is not luxury. I think that's even more luxury than what Tesla offers in their the Model X. Like, yeah, it's cool, but like, okay, never mind. I think I'm applying utility to the term luxury, so my bad. But still, like, wow.
It's just such a weak argument to me, just the luxury emphasis. Like, you should spend 5 times as much on this car because leather. It's so nice.
I think the EV9 is everything that the Gravity should have been when it should have come out. I think Gravity should have
Yes.
been coming out at the same time as EV9, which I think EV9 is coming out next year.
That's a powerful statement.
It should have been what EV9 is, and instead Lucid got caught up in Air, literally O2, in their own air. Didn't. And
introducing the atmosphere.
Oh, please stop! No, that's what they're gonna do next. The atmosphere. It's gonna be the ozone next. the Lucid ozone.
No, like, okay, just to give Lucid the benefit of the doubt, which is a funny statement, seeing how poorly the sales have been for the sedan, right? And how quickly the depreciation has happened. Do you think there's any chance at all? Because I'm looking at the Gravity webpage right now. Tell me if you see otherwise, but no longer on any of the page do I find reference to the 400-mile range mark. They they are still backing themselves into a corner. What I just found was range beyond anything else on the market. To me, that's like a, oh God, stop. Like, to me, that's a, oh no, because what is driving the price so high for these vehicles, other than maybe just inefficiencies in manufacturing and the luxury emphasis, but Porsche's undercutting Lucid. So I'm like, come on, Mercedes can undercut them. Not with the dealer markups, but that should be Lucid's advantage, is they don't have dealers to worry about. But I'm like, they're choosing these huge battery packs in all their vehicles. They want these 118 kilowatt hour packs, and the SUV has to use more energy. So my thought process is their best bet is to make the Gravity prioritize a lower range demographic at a lower price. Is there any hope that by seeing the poor sales, they'll say, let's just do like a 320 or a 330 mile range Gravity, and that way we can price it maybe at 80 grand or 90 grand, and because it's an SUV and it's a 3-row, that will have tons of demand for that, and the Saudis will just cover the losses of the sedan program because that's going so horribly.
I don't know. For some reason, my brain, while you're pitching that to me, I was thinking, like, in what world does it make sense that a sedan costs more than an SUV? But then I thought, Porsche has already done this with their gas cars, where you can get a sedan for a more costly price than like a Macan or a
right.
Macan. Oh dear Lord, not Panamera, because that's their hearse-looking one. Sorry if you love Porsche. I just totally dissed on the Panamera. But Porsche does it, and they can accomplish it. I don't know if Lucid could accomplish that, selling the Gravity for less than... I mean, they could definitely sell it less than like the Grand Touring or the Touring.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea if the Lucid Airs are selling this poorly. Like,
but I think at that point, then the Gravity will not have those captain seats. it will definitely just be a bench seat, and a bench seat in the back with very low quality leather or whatever. Who cares? I
guess I'm suggesting make it more of an R1S competitor rather than a $150,000,
which is even
SUV,
more entertaining because R1S or Rivian is trying to depart from the R1S in a way, trying to distance themselves in the future by going with the R2 platform. So they already saw the writing on the wall with the R1T and R1S, and like, these are a bit costly. Let's go for something a little bit more affordable. And Lucid's like, we need to compete with the R1S. We need to make
right. That's why it's such a steaming dumpster fire, I guess, to me, is like, this is... It feels like you'd be shooting yourself in the foot to be like, okay, we're losing 1,000. I did the math on this. This is not me trying to be a Lucid hater or anything. Honestly, all the Lucid Diamond Hand fanboys are very like sad to me. It comes across as very insecure because you'll like bring up numbers and you'll bring up facts and they'll just be like, shut up, Lucid to the moon. Like, they're amazing.
But I like the stock. We like the stock.
Their own publicly stated reports are showing 1,000 reservations lost per month. That's not a good sign. I don't care who you are. That's not good. And sure, Tesla's struggling with Model S and X demand, but that's like 5% of their business. That doesn't like affect them. Model S and X could have zero demand and Tesla would be fine because their money is all made on the Model Y. Like Tesla doesn't really care what happens to the S and X. Mm-hmm. Lucid should be very caring about what happens to these, but it feels like you'd be shooting yourself in the foot to be trying to sell these sedans and failing, and then introduce a more expensive SUV option, hoping that just because it's an SUV, people will suddenly justify that higher price. Like, doesn't that seem like a horrible idea?
Right. I mean, they do tout on the website seating options for 5, 6, and 7. So they're definitely trying to model it like the Model X with being able to...
That has to be a bench, then.
Well, it's going to be bench, and then luxury seats maybe in the future. So it's going to be 5 and 7 probably at first. So that way they can compete with Model Y kind of, but mainly Model X. And then...
Maybe they can have the middle seat like the Cybertruck was supposed to have and do a...
No.
8-seater.
No. No.
Because they don't have the big screen right there so that you could fit an airbag for the middle front seat passenger.
Yeah, maybe. But, I mean, Ram already gets away with it with not having an airbag there. He just in the second one. So you can still do it now.
Big airbag.
I guess, I don't know. I think... no matter what happens, I guess if Lucid survives the next few years and they come out with the Gravity, it will fit in the lineup of all these SUVs on the market, at least in the United States, where you have the more affordable ones like the EV9 that, have a little bit lower range but have capability and utility. And then if you want to value a little bit more luxury, you go with an R1S or with a... or a Tesla, or
Volvo's coming, right?
Yeah,
they've got a 3-row,
the EX90 and all that.
I would take the Volvo over the.
I would take Gravity, the Volvo in a heartbeat. But and then maybe if you really want to go all in on luxury, that's when you consider the Gravity. But with the Gravity comes a heavy price, being just everything about it. So I don't know. At this point, Apple buying Lucid is probably the only thing that will make me happy unless Lucid really retools everything. Otherwise, like I said on the one episode when we were talking about the Sapphire version, it's just... Every time I look at this
What
car
happened
company,
to that?
I don't... What happened?
Wasn't that supposed to be out by now? When did they say the Sapphire was coming?
I don't know. Again,
I'm looking at the site now, and it said Gravity reservation starts spring of 2023. Are we in spring?
Yes. So you can get on the wait list for Gravity right now.
But the reservations, they said, are spring of 23.
Oh, well, I mean, spring extends until... Well, I think we're still... No, yeah, we are in spring now because it's March.
So any time now.
Between now and May.
Okay. Chop, Lucid.
Right.
You've got just a couple months.
I don't know. I've got
to have the third annual Lucid Gravity unveiling.
I liked the unveiling when it was quite literally just a spy shot in the Santa Cruz mountains of it on a road with the Lucid Air, and I think this was all before I forget what announcement they were doing. I like that announcement when we just saw a spy shot of the Gravity on the road. It was a prototype, and that was it. That was better than anything that they showed with their unveiling when it's like person falling from the heavens or falling into the heavens from the Gravity and all that. It's just like, I don't even remember. I totally forgot the Gravity was a thing until you just reminded me of it in this podcast.
Well, I think they're trying to pitch it on their calls and stuff as like they're saving grace. Like, oh, we're not profitable now, but Gravity's coming and that'll fix all our problems. And
if you thought Air was an issue, Gravity doesn't look like a better solution. It just looks more... okay.
I think there's a right way to do it because it's a new vehicle, right?
Tesla's already done it. Tesla's done it. They made they made the Roadster, and they're like, we need to make something that's mass market. Let's make the S. And then S wasn't as mass market as they wanted it to be, but they're like, okay, I guess we'll focus on the 3. But in the process, they made the X, and the X was just that Fabergé egg that people were okay buying because it was just so unique and weird, but still offered some of that luxury.
But even when it came out, wasn't the X still like under 100K?
I think so.
It wasn't in the ballpark of, 140, 130,000 like Lucid's models are targeting.
Well, I think that's what's happening with inflation and all that. So it's kind of hard to compare apples to oranges, or I guess apples to apples, because they're both electric crossovers. But even still, they have to generate excitement. They have to generate excitement somehow with the Gravity. And the fact that even I, who is interested in startups, electric car startups and all that, and I'm very infatuated with design and all that, I forgot about the Gravity. And that just shows that, I mean, one, it makes sense because they're still trying to make it, but like, I have no reason to look forward to it besides, is it going to be profitable to make, or like, is it going to offer something that your fleet of Lucids have not, besides optional towing capability? And
optional.
That's what it says on the site. Optional. It doesn't even say towing capable. It says
why even say that?
Optionally towing.
Like, well, I don't need to tow. I hope it's an option. I hope I can leave that part out. I think it says a lot just looking at the different Twitter accounts. Like, Lucid's the only EV startup that has the gold check mark in the business branded account, which costs extra. No. Rivian has a legacy verified account. They're not paying for blue, but they probably will once that requirement comes in. And the most impressive part to me that I like is Aptera isn't verified at all. Like, they're the ones that are like, who cares? It doesn't matter.
It's Twitter. Who cares at this point?
Like, you don't need to be verified, which I agree with. I'm sick of all the checkmark talk and all the verification crap. So the fact that Aptera is the only startup that's like, we don't need to be verified and we're not going to pay extra, even if it's $8 a month, is like, that's efficient. Like, Aptera is, to me, the right way to do efficiency. Like, Aptera is all about efficiency should enable lower prices. Like, the people who care about efficiency are usually trying to spend less money. Lucid's doing efficiency, but in the wrong way, because it's like, we're trying to be efficient, but then all of those efficiency gains are eaten by luxurious features, and the luxury market is very crowded and very saturated already with Porsche and Mercedes and everyone. So they're just in this really weird middle ground, and I just wonder how long the Saudis can keep bailing them out, basically.
Yeah, it's not infinite money. They also have to fund their giant line city that's coming in the next decade or whatever. So they can't put all their money towards the Air or the Gravity or whatever. So yeah, I guess to summarize it, I'm still disappointed. I really want Lucid to succeed, but I've lost that spark. Lucid needs to reignite that spark of that love and excitement.
Chevy took the spark.
Imagine Chevy comes out with this. Chevy would sell more Sparks than as many Lucids as there are today. But if they made the Spark fully electric with like a range that is lower than the Bolt, anyways, whatever. But just something better, please. I'm losing.
I'm all in favor of them, like, just restructure the business, try to figure out how to make these vehicles more desirable. And I don't think it's a secret. I think the problem is the demand, and most of that comes from the price. I don't think that they've made a bad vehicle. I think the Lucid Air and the Gravity look great. I think they're very stylish. They look very comfortable. They look very luxurious. And I'm not saying there's anything really wrong with that. They seem to focus on the driver. It's just, people can't justify that price, especially now with the way the markets are. So you gotta reformulate this lineup to be more of a affordable. I'm not saying undercut Tesla Model Y prices, but at least get into the 5-figure ballpark, and then maybe there will be some demand for these things.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I used to think that I liked Lucid's design philosophy, but looking at I guess SUVs like the EV9, I found that I'm still very much a boxy type of person.
Yeah. You like the sharp edges.
I like the toasters on wheels. Which I guess makes sense because I owned a 940 wagon, and that thing I still love. I wish it was around still, but unfortunately that thing got crushed. But like a toaster in a compactor. But
yeah,
I do like more of the toaster look, or I guess the boxy look, compared to whatever approach that Lucid's going with, because they do also tout their car is supposed to be the most aerodynamic SUV in the world, which
I believe that. They've got that giant, what is it, a spoiler on the back based on the website's renderings. I've seen like actual, I don't know why they're teasing us with the design, like no one's seen it. You can look it up and there's been sightings of it and stuff. Like we know what it looks like, Lucid.
But this one's better.
This I like aerodynamic designs. I guess if like I like efficiency, which is why I'm so excited for the Cybertruck, and I'm now really pumped and excited that you might go through with a delivery of some kind. I don't care if it's dual, tri, whatever. I want to know someone with a Cybertruck, basically. And
I'll be that person.
And if there's a super efficient, super aerodynamic way to do a 3-row SUV, I'll be like, okay, model it after that. I just think all of the benefits of efficiency are being eaten by this desire to be luxurious, which is really stupid because even cheap vehicles can still be very comfortable and very... I love my Model 3. It's very cheap, but it's very comfortable and like cheap, cheaper than a Lucid, I mean. But it's I feel relaxed in it. I have driven in it a lot, and I like the seat gets hot, the steering wheel heats up. It's very fancy, I know, but it's like Chevy Bolts even these days are pretty comfortable and fancy enough for most people that I think they're emphasizing all the wrong things. I don't know where all this money is going.
I'd say if you want a efficient car that can seat 5 people and has okay storage space, go with the Ioniq 6 then. Because it is the most aerodynamic looking thing to me, especially with its several ducktails. It definitely has that aerodynamic look if you're trying to look for that and some of that design language. But
are you talking non-Teslas or just...
Oh, I'm just saying comparing it to the Lucid. But
okay.
If you want something that looks aerodynamic and beautiful like what Lucid captures with their aerodynamic centered design, but not like to the extreme that Aptera is, then go for Ioniq 6 because it's the most cheapest thing you can find that looks that aerodynamic that's on the market. Versus, I guess...
Or a Model 3.
Well, yeah, that's I guess, but... There's too many of those, remember? There's too many Model 3s.
They are all over the place. If you want to blend in with the crowd, get a Tesla.
Oh, my goodness.
I saw the new Prius, by the way. I don't know if you've seen those.
You saw it on the road?
At a dealer.
Wow. Oh, no.
Are we really tempted to check it out, but then I rememred there's a combustion engine in it, and I lost all interest.
I was going to say, are we going to entertain this conversation about a hybrid? No.
What's funny is there's this dealer that I won't disclose the location of, but I see what they have on occasion just because it's on a road that I drive by, and they at first on their they have like a flagship corner where they show off like the latest that they got. They had the BZ4X, and I drove by it like 10 times before I realized it was the BZ, and I was just like, oh wait, that's it. Oh, it looks like everything else there. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I was like, hope the wheels don't fall off, and no one bought it. So now they've got the Prius on that little flagship like spotlight spot.
Sure.
And there's 2 BZ4Xs now off to the side. So they got another one shipped in, and they still can't sell it.
But I've seen a lot of those on the road now. The BZ4Xs. Apparently people in the Bay are buying them, which surprised me, but I guess it makes sense because you see everything here in the Bay that's new and technology and different, and stylish.
I like the look. I'll admit I like the look of the new Prius.
I
think
agree.
it's a nice look.
I think if with this new, like what they did with oh goodness, what was it? Not the Supra, but the Nissan Z. A lot of people when they saw that new design, they're like, "Is it electric?" And Nissan's like, "Heck no! Why would we make it electric?" I thought the same thing with this. I'm like, are they finally going electric with the Prius? No. Oh, bummer. I think if they did that.
Such a bummer. Yeah.
Like, it's a really good design. I think this is hitting out of the park. And if they made it electric, it would sell like hotcakes and they would make people happy because people want a Toyota that's an EV because they love Toyota. Because Toyota, I think, just a hunch, makes great long-lasting cars. And if you can do that with an EV with the credibility that you have, like, easy win. Yeah, of course, you're going to sell them like hotcakes. So I think if they made the Prius electric, full electric, you would have, it would be as big, I wouldn't say it's as big as the Cybertruck pre-orders, but it would be a pretty long line. In fact, like something like this would be a fantastic competitor against the Ioniq 6, the Model 3, and just anything that's a low-priced EV. This would challenge it and probably beat it easily.
I think Tesla at one point said that their most traded-in vehicle was the Toyota Prius. So it's like the Prius fan base, the Prius demographic is the more likely to be interested in going full electric. Like those people that were original Prius adopters were doing it for the efficiency and the environment. You know, there was a lot of negative stigmas with the Prius, and arguably there still is for a lot of people. They're like, ew, they drive a Prius, he drives a Prius. You know, it came up in movies and stuff all the time. It was like those people were known for being environmentalists, and now I don't think those same people are buying Priuses. It's like those same people. It's maybe just I want better fuel economy or what have you.
Well, it's not just the cost-effective car. Something that is cheap to buy and cheap or semi-cheap to maintain because they last long. So it checks those boxes.
I've seen the argument of, you know, use smaller batteries so that you can still have the long range with gas and then just plug in for city driving and stuff. But I'm sorry, when the Model Y is becoming the best-selling vehicle in the world and it's all electric, that argument doesn't make sense to me anymore. It's like it prolongs the like, well, we can keep using gas for a little bit longer. It's like, no, we can go full electric. They're just not committing. They just don't want to do the work of let's get a supply chain in place for battery packs that are big enough to handle the vehicle. But it's very aerodynamic, and other companies are doing this. They're ramping up the Mach-E. They're ramping up the ID4 in multiple countries at the same time. Like, don't tell me it's not possible or it's not feasible to go all electric right now. It's like, well, you still hold out a little bit longer. It's like, we're ready. It's time. The market's moving on without Toyota. But I just think the branding of Prius is so much more iconic and recognizable than the BZ4X. Like, no one's gonna remember that. No, like, there's no emphasis on even trying to be iconic. It's just like, this is the Toyota BZ4X versus Prius. You know what it is. You've heard it before. You've seen it before.
Right.
Just being able to say the new Prius is all electric, and that's better for the environment, and it has great efficiency, great powertrain, and it's just trying to be cost effective. Yeah. It makes so much sense to me. Like,
right. Since we're entertaining this conversation about the Prius, I think what Toyota could do with the Prius is what could maybe happen with what's happened. I'm talking in circles. I think, like, I support your idea that Prius could basically spin off as its own thing. I think they can do what happened with Ram and Dodge. Is that Ram became its own thing. It doesn't need the Dodge Challenger. It doesn't need the Durango or anything like that. It can just be the 1500, the 2500, the 3500, and the vans and all that. It doesn't need anything else, and it can still be very successful. I think Prius, with, I don't know if you pay attention with how many different Priuses there are out there. It is insane.
So many.
My friend, I guess my wife's friend, owned, like, was it the Prius V? And when I saw him, like, wait, that's a Prius? It's like, yeah, it's a wedge, but it's a Prius. Like, it basically was the precursor to what this new Prius is. And it looked like a good Prius. I'm like, oh, interesting. I thought they looked all the same, but it's different. And they've got, like, the Prius Prime, and they've also got the Prius C.
There's like a hatchback version.
Yeah, the Prius C, and then like they have so many different Priuses. They could easily just spin off like Ram and just have the Prius lineup, and they're all hybrids because that's their ethos. Is they're always going to be an efficient.
And would they still be owned by Toyota in that case?
Sure.
It would be like Stellantis owns Dodge and everything.
It'd basically be that. I think. I don't think it's necessary, but if you got enough people, I don't know how Ram spun off from Dodge in the way they did. I'd have to look more into the history of that and how that happened. But I think if the team that directly does all the Priuses, or at least the people who are more familiar with Priuses in that sector, wanted to, I think they could easily somehow be able to separate themselves from Toyota and just become Prius, the brand, and then from there finally make an EV Prius, and then they would they would have a very large market share, in my opinion, if they made a electric Prius, and they also spun off. They would have maybe not full autonomy, but they'd have a good amount of autonomy to do whatever they want with the design, whether they want to continue with this nice modern look or go a little bit more wild, like Prius is known for, being very weird.
It's very iconic, very memorable.
I think they could easily have a winner on their end. They just have to go for it. But of course, I don't know the background of it and whether it's really necessary or feasible, or if it just takes Toyota to whittle themselves down to nothing, so that way they're forced to make an EV Prius and that bails them out. Maybe that's the case, which would be a bummer because Toyota, I know, makes good cars. They're just not putting in their best foot forward. And that's where all this disappointment comes from with the BZ4X and everything else. Though I guess there's not really everything else because they haven't really done anything else, at least in the States.
No, there's not much to compare it to.
So
there's too much feet dragging, but
they're a disappointment in the wrong way. Or I guess a disappointment in the right way, I'd say, because they have the capability of doing it. They're just not. Where Lucid doesn't really have the capability because they're kind of constrained. So they might be two sides of the same. I never really thought about this. What if Toyota bought Lucid? It just becomes Toyota, Lexus, Lucid.
We could make the worst EVs in the world together.
Oh, dear Lord. the Lucid Prius.
Maybe that's what the Lucid needs, is a combustion engine on the inside. Lucid Air becomes a plug-in hybrid.
I think that's where we end the podcast right there.
On that note, hopefully Randy will have a exciting update for us next week. At the time of recording this, we haven't heard anything, but there is possibly a delivery
another baby
next week. Baby 2. Electric Boogaloo coming soon.
Basically, yeah. It is another baby, but this baby's going to be hauling baby. I don't know where I'm going with this.
The first official Performance Model Y delivery that was not canceled for the show.
Wow, 2 Nick Burns in one episode.
Thanks, Nick. We'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.